For the second straight day on Reality Check, our focus is on India's looming water emergency. Chennai's present water crisis is worse than Cape Town's was last year, and that attracted global attention. At the time, the South African government had announced an impending day zero when they said they would shut off water altogether, and it forced residents to conserve water. They had activated emergency measures to ward off D-Day, but where is that sense of urgency right now if Chennai is indeed worse off than Cape Town was then? Worse still, it's not just Chennai. 4 cities are now among the world's worst 20, according to a recent study by WWF. Also, 21 Indian cities could run out of water by 2020. That's just next year, without urgent water management and serious awareness campaigns that involve each and every citizen. Just why isn't this a national priority right now? First, let's get you this ground report from Chennai.
They lined up before the sun rose in Chennai this morning. The rush for water in this poorer part of the drought-hit megacity is unbelievable. This part of Anakapattur, on the outskirts of Chennai, has 52,000 residents. There are just 4, that's right, just 4 taps for all of them. Worse, these now supply water 3 hours in the morning and 3 in the evening, not round the clock like a few months ago. This essentially means every minute as many as 36 people have to share one tap. When NDTV visited, there were about 150 pots waiting to be filled, with even children being roped in, waiting for up to 2 hours to get more water. But this is not the worst. The problem is that none of this water, many say, is fit for drinking.
குடிக்கிறதுக்கெல்லாம் தண்ணி இல்லைங்க காசு போட்டு தான் தண்ணி வாங்குறோம் குடிக்கிறதுக்கு நாங்கள் எல்லாமே தண்ணி வரல போர்லாம் வரல எங்கேயும் வரமாட்டேங்குது தண்ணி சரியாவே.
This is how people get drinking water, by tankers. There's a tussle for water supplied free by Chennai Metro. Murugan, a daily wage electrician, says he skipped work today, so his family living on the first floor could get some water.
சார் ஒரு நாளைக்கு ஹாஃப் டே லீவ் போட்டு தான் சார் உட்காருவோம் தண்ணி வருதுன்றதுனால. எவ்வளோ லாஸ் உங்களுக்கு? எனக்கு ஒரு நாளைக்கு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு நாளைக்கு 500 லாஸ் ஹாஃப் டேவுக்கு. அவங்க பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மாதத்தில் 15,000 கிட்டத்தட்ட லாஸ் தான் எனக்கு.
The Chennai Metro has deployed 900 tankers for street supplies. Drivers like Bhaskar work up to 17 hours a day, making 10 trips. Still, he says, people's anger sometimes turns towards them.
காலையில் 4 மணிக்கு வண்டி எடுக்கிறோம், நைட் 12 மணி வரலும் ஓட்டுறோம் இந்த மாதிரி டைமில். ஆனால் இந்த 20 வருஷத்தில் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு வறட்சி நாங்கள் பார்த்ததில்லை. இதில் பப்ளிக்கே எங்களுக்கு பாதுகாப்பு மாதிரி தான் இருக்காங்க. ஒரு சில ஆள் இருப்பாங்க, அது எல்லா இடத்துலையும் இருக்கிறது தான்.
For a large population in Chennai who cannot afford private tankers, it's often a long but uncertain wait. These tankers could come early in the morning or late at night. Often many would have to forego their work or livelihood. In Chennai, with Suresh, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
Well, today, in a rare nod to that water crisis, the Prime Minister spoke about water in Parliament. But will this go beyond mere lip service? That's the big question.
अच्छा होता बाबा साहब आम्बेडकर के नाम का उल्लेख होता। हिंदुस्तान में पानी के संबंध में जितने भी इनिशिएटिव लिए गए थे वो सारा काम बाबा साहब आम्बेडकर के थे। आज करीब 4 करोड़ लोगों को पानी मिल रहा है। 7 महानगरों को, 160 नगर पालिका को और 9,000 गांव को पीने का शुद्ध पानी पहुंच रहा है। पानी की तकलीफ क्या होती है और राजस्थान और गुजरात के लोग ज्यादा जानते हैं, और इसलिए इस बार हमने जल शक्ति मंत्रालय अलग से बनाया है। जल संकट को हमने गंभीरता से लेना होगा, और इस सीजन में भी हम जितना बल जल संचय पर दें, हमने देना चाहिए। और मेरी सभी आदरणीय सांसद महोदयों से प्रार्थना है, सभी एनजीओ से प्रार्थना है कि हम देश में पानी का महात्म्य बढ़ाने में किस प्रकार से योगदान करें और सरकारी दायरे से बाहर होकर के करें। और अब पानी पर ही इतना बल और हर घर को जल, इस मंत्र को लेकर के आगे बढ़ना है। मैं जानता हूं ये कठिन काम है, बड़े काम है।
All right, so the Prime Minister talking about the need now, the urgent need to take the water crisis very seriously and bringing all stakeholders on board. Perhaps the first time it's been addressed so directly by the Prime Minister himself. But let's bring in our panelists tonight. Alexis Morgan, Global Lead Water of WWF, is with us tonight. He's also the author of that very alarming water report that talks about not just Chennai topping a list of 400 cities which are water vulnerable, but the fact that many other Indian cities are also on that list. We're also being joined by Suresh Babu, who's part of WWF India, Dr. Sunita Narayan, from the director of the Centre for Science and Environment, is with us. And from Chennai, we're being joined tonight by S. Muralidharan, who will give us a sense of what the Tamil Nadu government is thinking and doing at this point. But Alexis Morgan, let me begin with you. Give us the salient findings of your study when it comes to India, and just why should everyone be paying serious attention to it? All right, Alexis Morgan, I believe we're having some trouble with your audio. I'm going to try and come back to you in a moment. But if I can ask that same question to Suresh Babu, the findings of this report, which now say that it's not just Chennai, other Indian cities are actually also topping this list now, cities that are seriously water vulnerable. All right, we seem to be having a lot of... Suresh Babu, that question was to you. If you can hear me, can you give us the big takeaways of this WWF study?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry,
yes,
I missed you.
Yes, Suresh Babu, I'm asking you about the WWF study that has now placed Chennai at the head of 400 cities when it comes to its water crisis. And says it's globally the worst off, but is also now talking about other cities.
That's absolutely right, and it's based on an analysis that we did using our water risk filter, which looks at the which looks at water quality issues, which also looks at the basin water availability and other parameters. So what we are finding is that from India, it's not only Chennai but also Calcutta. Surprisingly, Calcutta is one of the top 20 vulnerable cities, and so is Mumbai and Delhi. So this is kind of an alarming situation for us, and it's not very surprising because if you remember June 2018, when the Niti Aayog released that report on composite water management index, there was already a signal that 21 of Indian cities are moving towards day zero.
Right. Alexis Morgan, we have you back, I believe. I'm going to put that same question to you about the WWF study. Why is it that we as citizens of India and indeed our governments, why do we need to take this very, very seriously indeed? What are your findings that really sort of make this water emergency that we're facing right now? Do you believe that this now needs to be seen as a national priority?
I think when it comes to water issues and the analysis work that we did, we looked at cities around the world, and indeed we find that there are a lot of cities that are increasingly exposed to drought issues and flood issues. And absolutely, water is a huge issue. It's critical to the economy, it's critical to people's health. It's critical to all aspects of life as we know it. And so absolutely, this is an issue that I think increasingly needs to be on the agenda of all individuals, ranging from individual citizens to government to business.
But when you say Chennai is now topping a list of 400 cities when it comes to water vulnerability, relatively speaking, what does this mean? Are we now, is Chennai now worse off than Cape Town was last year when that attracted absolutely global attention? But here we don't find the same kind of urgency in dealing with the situation that we saw then.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to water, it's a very dynamic issue. The situation changes from year to year, month to month. And so where one city may top at one point, that changes through time. There was certainly a lot of global media attention around Cape Town over the past couple of years, and that is really one of the key differences. There hasn't maybe been as much media attention on some of the issues arising in India, which are huge.
Sunita Narayan, would you say that perhaps the media attention, lacking is one of the reasons for this problem? The Tamil Nadu government would have us believe exactly the opposite. It talks about how the media, if anything, has overhyped the water crisis in Chennai and other cities of Tamil Nadu. But when we talk about lakhs of people now not getting adequate access to water, you saw that ground report where people are literally forced to not go to work so that they can in fact stand in queues and get water. What are we left with? What are we looking at over here? When we have a Niti Aayog report talking about 21 Indian cities facing a situation of no water at all by next year, 2020 is literally months away now. Why is this not a national emergency?
You know, Ankita, we seem to forget, I mean, last year, Shimla was in very similar state.
And we talked about it then, exactly.
We were talking about a day zero. We talked about day zero for Shimla. Let's be very clear. Indian cities today have India has a huge water challenge. But I totally disagree at the fact that this is such a dire situation, because this is an issue that we can turn around. The fact is that Chennai had a similar water crisis. Chennai is a city which is at the end of all rivers, and therefore it's always been very high on the water vulnerability list. It had a very bad drought in early 2000, but it had a chief minister who decided that she was going to make sure that she revived the rainwater harvesting system house by house. And as a result of it, and there is data to show that Chennai's groundwater table actually went up.
Right.
Now, this was only a job half done, because there are water bodies around Chennai which need to be revived and can be revived. The problem, Ankita, is that we tend to take the water crisis as an emergency that happens only when the crisis is as acute as you can see it in Chennai. The fact is, as soon as it will rain, there will be floods in Chennai.
And in fact, we've heard the Tamil Nadu government say that we're waiting for the monsoons and things will get better after that. But S. Muralidharan, let me begin by asking you, if it's business as usual, there is a sense that Chennai could in fact be one of those cities that runs out of water altogether. It is a very real possibility. Are things being done to turn this around? Is this being given the seriousness it merits?
Yes, I think that people are serious now, because if they miss this chance, they could be heading towards day zero. So that's very clear. So as ma'am said just now, I mean that the rainwater harvesting, which was initially initiated by Jayalalitha, was half done, because a lot of people, because of the corrupt officials, etc., people paid a bribe and didn't do the rainwater harvesting, yet got their certification for their apartment saying that they have rainwater harvesting. Now they will have to think twice. Now, if you look at the stupidity, if I say, they paid probably a 10,000 rupee bribe to not to have rainwater harvesting, but they're paying 50,000 rupees to buy water every month now. So that's the kind of the scenario right now. So learning from these, I'm sure people are going to wake up now to have rainwater harvesting. But one thing we need to understand about Tamil Nadu, the reason why it floods always is Chennai is below sea level. 1. 2, if you take the whole of Tamil Nadu, we are like 4% of Indian landscape, 6% of Indian population, but only 2.5% of water resources, which is available to India, available in Tamil Nadu. Now, that means if the average per capita cubic meter availability of water to Indian is 2,000, we get only 900. So it's perennially a dry state. That's why we have 61 reservoirs, 42,000 ponds, and some lakes, as she said, they're just getting into the sea.
My point is, Mr. Muralidharan, at this point, you have full-blown politics over water right now. You have the DMK hitting the streets. You have the DMK accusing you of not taking up the Kerala government's offer of water trains from that state. You are now saying it's up to Karnataka to give you more Kaveri water. Why has this become this political blame game right now? Why are parties not coming together? Why are all stakeholders not coming together for a more effective solution?
See, that's exactly what we need to ask the opposition, by DMK doing all this drama. In fact, it should be the DMK who should have, put pressure on the Congress government, who's their alliance, and got the water from Kaveri released much before the board came and announced it that the water should be given. One. Second is the Kerala, normally it comes with strings attached. Kerala will give you water, and the other side they would like to dump some medical waste and, beef waste and all, etc. So this normally, it's a tricky thing. That's why probably the government said no. But whatever the water they were offering, that's not enough. That will only last a day or so. So that could be the reason. But overall, the entire southern states, whether you take Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Andhra, all of them are dry now. So where will you get the water from? See, these reservoirs which we have, they can last up to a year and a half even if you have a drought. This drought thing, the severe drought has been happening in Tamil Nadu every 30 years. It happened in 89, it happened in 59, it happened in 39,
so
like
again,
that.
Mr.
There's a cycle
you're
to
saying
it also.
it's cyclical,
So
it's not a pressing problem. It'll go away once there's a good monsoon. Sunita Narayan, I can see you shaking your head. Come in on this.
No, it is not. No, I'm not saying it's going to be
really,
that bad as it's being projected.
Yes, Sunita Narayan.
Sorry,
Mr. Muralidharan, Ankita, just to make the point that, this is really at the core of our problem. I mean, the fact is water requires us to be obsessive year after year, and not just when the crisis is so bad. And I can hear from Mr. Muralidharan, and that's the normal attitude. Oh, it'll rain now, and then, the reservoirs will fill up and everything will be back to normal. It's
No, I'm not saying
normal.
that.
Let's be very clear. We are going...
No.
Sorry, Mr. Muralidharan, the sense I'm getting is that we'll be able to fix it when the rains come. And the point I want to make is that a city like Chennai will have to think very, very seriously about making sure that it gets more water secure. And you're absolutely right, rainwater harvesting that Mrs. Jayalalitha started with the lakes and ponds, with the entire sewage you have to start recycling it, reusing it, turning the sewage back into water.
Yes.
You really have to make water your state obsession, your government's obsession. And I'm sorry, the only time I saw it was when Mrs. Jayalalitha was your chief minister and she focused on it. And that's what you need to do year after year, not only for this time when there is a water crisis.
Yes, Mr. Muralidharan, go ahead, respond to
No,
that.
one point. See, what the government has done this time, they have found corporates who will come forward and help us desil this 42,000 lakes, ponds, and some of them have been done. And also, interestingly, one of the ministers by name Mr. Mafai K. Pandiyarajan, in his constituency, it was, I will take pride in telling this because I tweeted to him something like 1 year ago, sir, why not convert the lakes in our state just like tank bund? You put a bund around, you let people enjoy in the evenings, charge a fee, use that fee to maintain this
all these steps were being taken, and everything was so hunky-dory, why would Chennai be topping this list of 400 water vulnerable cities? Suresh Babu, we've heard from the government.
You're not getting my...
Yes, Sunita Narayan.
You're not getting my point. One lake...
Yeah. Mr. Muralidharan,
one minute.
I just want to make the point that first thing you need to do is to stop encroachment of your lakes and ponds. And you are, that is your most important thing. Beautifying the lakes and ponds will not happen. You have to stop encroachment.
I am not denying.
Okay, let Suresh Babu come in on this point as well. Suresh Babu, the Tamil Nadu government would have us believe that everything is being done, and of course it's just another wait, a short wait for the monsoon, and this is a crisis that is going to be over in 2 weeks.
I didn't say that.
But can we afford to have such a short-sighted view of the water crisis? And do we need to now move this discussion beyond Chennai and take a look at situations that are affecting all of India's cities? Mr. Muralidharan, you'll get your chance. I want Suresh Babu to come in at this point.
I think, like Sunita ji mentioned, it's time for us to take a long-term perspective and an integrated approach. Lake cleaning, I appreciate your efforts in bringing corporates and all. It's not just about desilting or building bunds, but it's also looking at the catchments. It needs to have water coming from somewhere. So if you look at the 2016 Parliamentary Standing Committee report, which actually looked at the reasons for the floods and what needs to be done, it has actually given a number of recommendations around what needs to be done to rejuvenate the wetlands. So wetlands is one part of the larger story of water security in our urban areas. There are many dots that need to be connected. We have not even begun to look at urban watersheds. I'm not just talking about Chennai, but at other cities as well. We have not looked at the rivers. Chennai has 3 rivers and a canal, and that used to be the source of water security in the city. That's gone now. So how do you sort of bring these back? But most importantly, Ankita, here is also the question of governance. So we normally get into the issue of technicalities, which is important, but also, we are rationing water right now. We are giving people water once in 2 days or 3 days. But why are we not able to sort of regulate our demand? It's all about ownership of people. Ownership of people, for that we need data to tell people that how their consumption patterns are changing and what is its impact going to be on the overall water availability of the city. The numbers are really, really scary. Chennai to Calcutta to Mumbai, the demand supply gap is huge. And again, Niti Aayog says that next year, by 2030, our demand will be twice the supply. So how are we going to deal with it?
In fact, Suresh Babu, would you say that there are lots of lessons to be learned? Could we maybe take a leaf out of Cape Town's book? Let's take a look at some of those measures that were adopted there. The government announcing an impending day zero when water would be shut off altogether. The prospect of a day zero, then creating that kind of immediate urgency, even panic, so that people are jolted into conserving water. Water use being restricted to 50 liters per person per day. Now that's been relaxed to about 3 times that amount. But there were hefty fines for overuse. There was a water cut-off limit, and water was actively reused and recycled. Until we do that, until we learn the value of water, until we start seeing it as a precious commodity, how are we going to reverse this trend? How are we going to reverse this sort of immediate descent towards day zero?
Absolutely right. So if you look at Cape Town, the journey started in 2017. They forecasted that in 2018 the day zero will approach, and therefore there was dedicated campaigns reaching out to the people to warn them that this situation is going to come, and there will be water regulations and restrictions that needs to be put in place. Then they also started looking at various other measures, technical measures as well. But the point is that we have our own solutions. In India, it is about how we bring them together, how we connect the dots, how we put in an integrated plan for urban water management in place. We know the pieces, and now it's time for us to sort of come together and put the pieces together.
Alexis Morgan, a quick word on this. Is there something that we can learn from the global scenario? If there was one way India can now take stock, especially that very alarming statistic of 21 cities running out of groundwater in just a year from now, is that something we really now need to worry about? Is it encouraging that at least the Prime Minister is now talking about this in Parliament? We now have a Jal Shakti ministry also. Are these first steps, or does this need to be scaled up a lot more?
I think there are absolutely the need to have greater discussions on these sorts of things, and engagements and discussions like this are helpful on that front. But absolutely, there are many, many lessons to be learned from around the world around how these sorts of challenges can be tackled. And obviously that needs to be set up in the context of India and the cities there, but taking catchment solutions and making sure that we're thinking about water and the value that it brings to from the upper watersheds all the way down to the cities in the coastal areas, we need to have a much more integrated approach that accounts for wetlands, accounts for rivers, and slows water down in the system, because if it moves too quickly, it runs out very quickly. And so there are many, many solutions that are out there, ranging from recycling of water in places like Singapore to much more catchment-based solutions, which were part of the solution in Day Zero, not just behavioral change in the city, but working with farmers and industry in the upper parts of the catchment to solve the problem.
Sunita Narayan, I'm going to give the last word on this show to you. Sadly, we seem to have these discussions only when it becomes an acute crisis, when it hits the headlines, when those long queues and people suffering tend to become that big visual cue that everyone then catches in on. How do we then make this something that we talk about, that we engage with on a daily basis, that we make water a national priority?
No, absolutely, Ankita, but I think there is a sense of a crisis, and I think there is clearly something that we can do. I mean, I just want to leave you with the last word to say, you know, the fact is, when you look at cities, the good thing in cities is that we don't consume our water. The fact is that the water that comes into our homes leaves it in the name of sewage. Now, it's wastewater. The problem today with cities is that we are taking more and more clean, charging more and more wastewater, which we are not treating.
Right.
But cities can actually become far more water prudent. We can return to the ecosystem the same amount of water that we take. This is different from agriculture, which consumes the water.
Right.
So when it comes to cities, we can definitely fix it. And remember, the other part of it is, cities today have a water shortage, but we also have floods. Now, the way to fix the floods is to improve the drainage, which means our ability to hold the water.
And if anything, findings show that cities that have floods are also water deficient. Yes. We'll leave it at that for the moment. Let's hope we continue having these conversations as we continue to focus on India's water emergency. We'll take a very quick break.